Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY Securities webinar, live forex market review. My name is Duncan Cooper. Welcome. Before we move along, if you could read through the disclaimer, that would be great. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see your chats. So if you want to join us in chat, just use the link I've given you there. For everybody else, if you have a question, just put it to the chat box or the question and answer box. So please read through the disclaimer. All right, moving along. If you don't know me, then I'm Duncan Cooper. I'm Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at ACY Securities. And I'm a full-time forex trader. Been trading the market now for more than 15 years and mentoring clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is down the screen, duncan.cooper@acy.com. Through the week, you can connect with me at our website. Go to the Market News tab at acy.com, our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia. And if you want to connect with me personally, I'm on Twitter there and LinkedIn. Hi, Dwayne, I can see you got your hand up there. How are you? And through the week, you can connect with us in the ACY Telegram channel. Just contact Nathan.bray to get access. As well, if you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates that I use, just contact Nathan. He will organize that for you. And just reading your chat, Edwin, saying sorry. I'm good, thanks. And yourself? All right, so I'll just put Nathan's details in the chat. If you'd like to get access to Telegram, my chart layouts and templates, you got any questions about setting up a demo account, live account, just contact Nathan. All right, that's in the chat for you. All right, let's get into tonight. Let's just have a look what's coming up on the news front. We do have the US employment claims figures coming out. That's unlikely to move the market too much, but you never know. Tomorrow evening, early evening, then into the evening, we've got manufacturing and services PMI data coming out from France, German, UK, and US over the course of the evening. Okay, so lots of data coming out tomorrow evening. And Credit, hello to you. All right, so not much on the news front to worry about today, but there is some items coming out tomorrow evening. Market's a little bit range bound at the moment. So let's get to the charts. It's a little bit indecisive. Let me start with the US dollar index. Big question on the dollar index, if you go to the weekly chart here, is it going to hold its support? It is at the moment for the week, but the week's still not old yet. It's not young, but it's not old. We've still got a good day and a half to go. So are we going to finish on a very, it would be nice if we could have a very positive week finish. That might give us an indication that we're going to move back up to maybe, the top of the range. But the market's having a pause for thought there at support. So, bit indecisive, S&P 500. It is starting to turn over at the top there a little bit. Once more at 79% level of this range. This is the monthly high to low range. Weekly, there's a weekly top here, there's a weekly top here, and there's a weekly top there. That's why I've colored it in orange, just so you know where all the weekly resistance is. I stretch that across to current price action. You can see we've moved into that band of weekly resistance. Weekly chart here, there's those weekly tops. Are we holding there to move down? All right. From a day chart perspective, seeing a lower top, lower bottom form would certainly help clinch the deal. Still theoretically an uptrend there in the day chart, but it is maybe rolling over there at the top. And I did have the Dow Jones up. That's at the 79% level too. Maybe turning over. Nasdaq 100. It's at the 79%. This is very similar to the S&P 500. This is the monthly. high-low range. Are we filling at the 79% level there? Let's actually put in a lower bottom and a lower top on that one. So maybe that is now starting to turn down. All right, so maybe we're getting some support on the dollar index, maybe. Still need some more information on that. Maybe the indices are maybe just starting to top out. So let's head over to the euro dollar first of all. Put this out today. The level I put in was this area here. I drew a fib from New York high down to that low from the declining New York, 79% fib, overlapping with daily resistance here. And it's hit that level pretty much twice. It's having much more of a failure at the moment than the first time. So clearly what's happening here is prices tripped some stops above this high. You can see the wicks on the candles. Some retail traders are going long up here. And then, of course, nobody else is buying up there. We could also draw a fib across yesterday's whole range. And you're going to have a 79% level too, but in a slightly different level. All right, so I was using the smaller range, but it's pretty much the same thing. Comes up with an area where you would expect price maybe to fail. So are we failing once more at the daily resistance level, 79% fib overlapping there? And if we drop it down to, or drop it up to the higher time frames, and when I see they say I'm having a couple of tough weeks, a few losing streaks. The market isn't easy at the moment. It's a bit undecisive. Is it going to move through and continue the uptrend? You know, just looking at the day chart here in the euro, most immediate trend is up in terms of high tops and bottoms. The question is, are we failing up at this weekly top? We're at very high levels, and you know, my longer term analysis has been that the positioning from last year's range were at the 79% level, failing last week. So, you know, that could be a great level for the final top of the year. We'll have to wait and see. But we're not getting any structure change at the moment. We're just holding there. We keep holding at that resistance level. So is that going to turn over and produce maybe a lower top here to a lower bottom? As well, you're asking me about the dots on the highs and lows. It's called the support and resistance indicator. If you contact Nathan, I'll put his details in the chat. He'll get you that indicator. It's called the support and resistance indicator. So it just highlights the major tops and bottoms that I use for highlighting the highs and lows. And yes, I use those highs and lows for support and resistance. All right, so to the 4-hour chart, you can see it's consolidatory. Keeps putting in tops here. Keeps coming up and failing. So at the moment, all I know for sure is sellers are clearly holding the market at 109.73 at the moment. Now we could move above because the higher time frame trend, the day chart's up, but intraday at the moment, sellers are capping any movement up at that level at the moment. So that's a good level to start to base a trade set up around, to trade maybe down. Of course, it's always great if you can get in tight to the level with limited risk. So even now, you're not risking too much. If you're clicking in at the moment, you're not risking too much. Putting your stop above the high of the day, you know, it's only about 15 pips risk. If you go above yesterday's high, you're probably risking about 20 pips. So there's not a lot of pips to risk to see whether you're going to be right or wrong. And you can be targeting the lower yesterday or looking for a break down the range. All right. But clearly at the moment, the market's getting capped up there at 109.73. Let's have a look at the euro yen. Now, at the moment, this is at very high levels. If I go to the weekly chart, that's the high last year. At very high levels, very overextended. There's no trend change at the moment, but I'm not going to buy at such high level. You know, if the trend doesn't change, you'd want to buy a pullback, but you need to know where we're at. We're getting very close to go to the monthly chart, coming up to a significant high area over here, a little bit short of it, but you know, there's a significant high here that we declined down from. Can we take out last year's high? If we can, then you need to watch this high up here. So the weekly trend is up. It's very much overextended. That day trend is very well overextended. It needs a correction, really, if you want to be a buyer. It's coming up to a double top area that formed, we put the final top in last year, came down, created a double top here. So you're going to certainly find some sellers up there at 147.75, potentially. Now, at the moment, the structure on the 4-hour chart is still holding its trend. I'd be looking for a break of structure there. If this was a good level to sell at, that double top just after last year's high, you'd want to see on the 4-hour chart a break of a low, a rally, a lower top to form. All right, now we don't have that at the moment. And, just hitting the buy button because you see that it's in an uptrend isn't the best thing to do because you're at resistance here. So you have to understand when the best time is to buy, when's the best time to sell. I'm not seeing anything to do there at the moment. If you're already in a trade to the long side, then you're clearly watching to see if this is going to break to stay in the trade. If we get a significant rejection candle up here and you're in a long trade, that may be the thing that's telling you to get out of your trade. But from a buy perspective, you'd want to see maybe this is a weekly top here, maybe a pullback to weekly support. If you're still prepared to buy at such high levels, you want to pull back to a level of clear support to trade up off from. All right, now we don't have any of that at the moment, so it's just a question of monitoring that pair at the moment. All right, now if we keep pushing up, we might break above this level. This is the yearly high. It would probably be very unexpected to see the yearly high just get broken and move straight up and through without some kind of hesitation and sell off in the short term. So just worth watching these high levels at the moment because we could at least get a 1 or 2 week pullback. And when we start to break that down on a lower time frame, that could be quite a number of pips. So, and we could actually come up to the yearly high here or a fraction short, and we could put in this year's yearly high just short of last year's yearly high, if that's what the market wants to do. So we are very expensive levels at the moment. So just understand that and, just keep monitoring, see what price does. Pound dollar. All right. Now, once more, we are at today. We've tested it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All right. We've tested this double top on the weekly chart. 62% level area of last year's trading range. Significant area resistance. The market at the moment keeps trading a little bit above it, but it does not want to commit above after failing last week. And of course, inflation figures were up, but even though the inflation figures were up yesterday, we did trade above for a while, but we weren't able to commit a solid day up and attack last week's high. So that is rather a weak effort by the pound dollar. So we may actually be getting ready to form a lower top up here. So I don't know if anybody's gotten short up here at 124.48. That is the level to watch. You can see it's been failing there all week. Just want to look at the 1 hour chart there. You can see it keeps moving above, but it cannot stay above. Now you may have already, missed the boat to trade at 124.48. It's giving you 2 attempts today. Slav, you're telling me you got in at 124.44. I knew you'd be in. You got all these levels marked up. Now, I did say yesterday, watch 124.48 in our Telegram for failure. So we did move above yesterday a couple of times, but ultimately, if you know my 100 pip trade entry, well, you could have just traded at 124.48 for a sell, put your stop 100 pips above. And whilst, you could have gotten in here, whilst it went above, back down, went above, back down. Sorry to stall there, stall here, stall there. It may have gone against you a number of times, but right now you're in profit. Giving the market enough room to breathe, as it at the moment, buyers and sellers are just fighting. The sellers know that we're at clear, strong resistance, and they're just fighting with the buyers to see whether they can win at that resistance level. That's why it keeps going up and down. Sellers are maybe just winning at the moment, but this could just come straight all the way back up again today. You can see how zigzaggy consolidation it is here at the moment. So can it, that's the level to watch, 124.48. If you can get back there again, that's the level to trade at. All right, pound yen, it's just been continuing up, similar to the euro yen. I'm just monitoring the range at the moment. I know from last year, got this triple top up here. Squash it in. There's more highs to the left here. I've been saying that whilst this is moving up, for me personally, I don't like to be buying at the tops of runs. When I look left, there's all these highs to the left. All right. Because that's just the sell zone. All right. Now, of course, price can move up and through and beyond whenever it wants. But from a statistical point of view and high probability point of view, you want to be buying in a support area and selling at a resistance area. You don't want to be seeing something flying up into a resistance area and feeling like you're missing out, so you jump in. Because I can see, if anybody knows about imbalances, which we're going through next week, there's an imbalance in here that the market's just filled. Just in there. All right. So at the moment for me, this is pretty much maybe at the top of the market. I don't see a setup to sell at the moment, and it's just too high up for me to be a buyer. If you are in a bought position, you do not want to see this move back below 166. That's 150 pips back. If you're a long-term bought position thinking this is going to move all the way through and up above these highs, 166 is really your line in the sand to say, okay, that price cannot move below that level, this weekly top here. Now, if you're prepared to buy in this area, you want to look for a dip. 4-hour trend at the moment, that's the range. So you could be looking for a dip down to the 62 level, 79 level. That's at 166.17, so it's 17 pips above your weekly level. All right, so you can look to buy a dip if you're happy to buy in this area. As I say, I'm not, it's just too high up for me. All right, but you don't want to buy at the top of the run, so you need to look for a pullback. All right, so that's the pound and euro crosses. Let's head over to Aussie yen. Now, another pair that is at a very good level of resistance. It hasn't really moved down from it. This is a monthly low. So let's just break this down from the monthly chart. There's a monthly low here. This is in a downtrend to two further lower bottoms. He's coming back up just to see what it wants to do at this monthly resistance. There's also a top over here. This, if I look left, there's a bottom. There's a top there at 90.29. There's a top there at 90.72. And just pausing, slightly saying, 100 pip stop on the pound at 124.48 puts you 1 pip above the early April highs. Yeah, well, it gives you plenty of room for the market to oscillate around. But I mean, the idea is that you expect that 124.48 is a solid resistance level, and if it can move above that level by 100 pips, I use that as a reference gauge to say, well, if a market can move that much above the level that I'm trying to maybe take a long-term position at, I'm probably wrong, because price can certainly move 50 or 60 pips above a level, then just fall straight back down, and you're not necessarily wrong with your positioning. All right, so the Aussie yen, we've got monthly resistance levels from 90.29 to 90.72. All right. And we really haven't really gotten above this low point here at 90.51 by much more than a pip or two. Now the weekly trend here is down. It's just coming up. Is it just coming up to, it's just, I'm hoping it's just coming up to look and find its position to form the next lower top. And there's some other, there's the monthly level. There's a weekly level there at 90.82. All right, so there's lots of resistance to the left there that the market is going to try to trade down from. But this is the clear monthly level there at 90.51. You've got 62% level, which we're trading at right now. So earlier in the week, I did say watch 90.15 to 90.51 to be a resistance area. It's in it at the moment. You want to see it trade out of it. Can you see a trigger? Be great if the be great if the market just traded down and broke the 4-hour trend, came up, put in a 79% retracement to turnover. All right, so I'm just monitoring for a turnover there. Okay, sell off. I mean, you could trade it at 90.51, use a 100 pip stop. All right, that's one method. But I'm just sitting at the moment, just watching, the euro yen's been moving up, the pound yen's been moving up. And they don't seem to be slowing down at the moment. So if we keep getting this yen weakness, this could still go up. So I'm just wanting to see a clear price action telling me that, okay, we're turning over. Not quite getting that yet. Aussie dollar. There's your weekly support. 66.29, there's your daily resistance. So I'm pretty much smack in the middle. So this is not very user friendly at the moment. You want to be a buyer at support if support's holding, or a sell at resistance. Now, as we break it down into an intraday perspective, let's just go to the weekly chart. I am favoring the downside because this weekly trend is down. So, but at the moment, it's just lost traction. It's just stuck in the middle of a range. But from its corrective rally up here that it's having, it's not a very large rally. Nowhere near like what we've been seeing on the pound dollar, euro dollar. So it's been a very slow going rally. And it's in the middle of the range at the moment. So at the moment, sometimes the pair is not great to trade. It's not a great level that you want to trade at. I am actually in this short from just a little bit above 68, but at the moment, it's not costing me anything on the rollover, and I'm just waiting to see if it can break down. So, but in terms of trading it right now, this 4-hour chart's not very pretty. If you want to get short, you want to be trying to get short up here if it will offer that. Okay. It comes down to support and holds once more, it will probably trade back up. So you could be just trading it like a range. You're looking for a trade to trade up from support or down from resistance at the top. Now, what we might see over the next day or two, is, what's the 67 level doing for you? At the moment, it's acting as some form of support. So maybe we're going to head back up. All right. But with the weekly trend being down, I'm positioning myself with that trend. But at the moment, 67 looks like it's offering intraday support. So if you want to get to long side, watch what 67 is doing. Can you see your setup at 67 area to trade up? If you want to trade to the downside, you probably want to see 67 break clearly. And then over the next couple of trading days, if we can get a nice break, then you want to start to watch to see whether 67 becomes resistance. A resistance area to trade down. At the moment, it's being support. All right, so I don't like it. If I'm not already in a trade, I don't like to be getting in when it's really in the middle of the range. There's your resistance, there's your support. You can tell that's pretty much almost in the middle. So it's not that user-friendly where it's positioned. All right, euro pound, again, there's your day chart, there's your daily support level, there's your high level, of resistance. You know, this is a pair that is range bound a lot of the time, so you want to be looking to trade it like it is a range, and you're in the middle, not user friendly there. Look to the outer edges of the range to trade, whether it's support or resistance. When it's in the middle there, it can go either way. All right, so it's a lot lower odds when you're stuck in the middle. AUSD, dollar yen. Yeah, we'll get to dollar yen. We will cover the dollar yen. He's saying something's going on right now. Right, nothing imminent there, but we'll get to that. All right, so euro pounds. Look at the top or the bottom of the range. All right, euro yen is going down. If you clicked in when I said you'd be in profit at the moment. Might still stay range bound. You can see all these 15-minute support lows down here. You know, price can't break here. If you're just looking for an intraday trade and price gets down here and you're already in and doesn't want to break through, it's probably time to take profit down in that area. If you're looking for more of a positional play, you can just obviously hold your trade, but you can quite clearly see that that's where the support's coming in intraday, round central pivot. About 109.50. So it's only trading in like a 30 pip range at the moment. All right, we covered the pound crosses, pound dollar. Yeah, there's your intraday support at the moment. There's your intraday resistance up there. All right, New Zealand yen. Now we had CPI data from the New Zealand today. It came out lower than expected, so that may be certainly offering the idea that maybe they're not going to be hiking interest rates at 50 basis points anymore. Maybe they might want to go on a pause. So I did put this out on Telegram earlier today, but earlier in the week I did say watch up here. Watch this resistance area, 83.81 to 83.53. Would we move into that area this week? Hold and fail, move down. So are we moving down to weekly support? Now getting in, I had a fib drawn in here and the 79% level was overlapping with that resistance, but now I have to readjust. But same area, 79% is just a couple of pips below the resistance level. So I would just be monitoring to see if this comes back up. 79% level, which is about 83.50. Can it fail to move down to weekly support? And it might break weekly support if it wants to, but you want to look to sell a rally there. Now that we failed there on poor CPI, just pausing because something in my chat. Nazral, yeah, whatever I'm saying right now on the currencies will work on gold. Anything that's highly traded, okay. Right now, New Zealand dollar, maybe because of the poor CPI now, it's wanting to break below this support area it's been forming on the day chart. We've got this weekly low over here. We just get rid of that line. Yeah, the weekly trend here. We'll just get rid of that line at the moment. Let's move to a lower bottom. Just put in a lower top. That was about a 62% retracement. That was when the interest rates went up 50 basis points. So interest rates go up and you can't hold the move. CPI now is going down. So is this moving down to a further lower bottom over time? It is below the weekly level of support now, but it's been doing that and then moving back above. It's been rather consolidatory like the Aussie, but your higher picture, both the Aussie and the New Zealand dollar are both showing the same weekly structure, lower bottom to a lower top, trying to break down to the downside. All right, so not sure where I had the last line in. Probably had it in on that one there. All right, so I've been using this line here, support 61.67. We're a little bit below it, but you know this really just needs to let go and come down to here. There's a high chance if we don't suddenly break that we're going to move back up, that this support will once more come in and we'll trade back above 61.91. So it's a difficult area here. We know the fundamental news has maybe shifted to the negative side a little bit for the New Zealand dollar, but support is support. This is not where I would sell, even though I think the bias is to the downside. It's difficult at the moment, just its position to take a position to the short side. Because, you have a double top there in the 4-hour chart. If I want to sell, I want to sell a rally. So I would have to look for price to come back up. But price coming back up then gets back above the support levels we're trying to break. So it's kind of, counterintuitive, isn't it? I want support to break, but I want to sell a rally. And I don't want to sell a rally if price moves back above support. So at the moment, I could look, if it does rally, I could look certainly up at the higher reaches of, with some tops here. I could look in the area. I could look to the 50-minute chart to see whether the 50-minute chart turns over, but it's trying to break to the downside, but it's very consolidatory and it keeps false breaking support. So it's not the best pair to try to get in. When it failed up here, that was a great area to get in. This is more difficult at the moment to get in on a high probability setup at the moment. So just monitoring that. But I mean, you could look to the high levels I'm showing you. What happens up there if we do pop up? But that means support's not getting broken. All right, dollar CAD. This is a day chart look. Day chart's still down, but I think we may have bottomed out down there. Weekly trend here is up in terms of high tops and bottoms, and we come back down to the line of rising support from those bottoms. In all probability, we could be having the next leg up now. Up, down, next leg up. So this 134.06 level, this low that we move back above now, I will be watching that area at the moment. This 4-hour uptrend that's moving up there, it's long in the tooth. You want to watch a pullback on the 4-hour. And the 62 level overlaps with that daily level of was resistance, should now be support. So I will be watching for a pullback to that area. Look for your setup to buy 134.06, 62% retracement level in that same zone. That's what I'll be watching for. All right. We may have put in the long-term bottom down there. Dollar franc. A little bit harder at the moment for the dollar franc. On the monthly chart here, I've got all these lows from other time frames, but we're at very low levels for the dollar franc. False breaking 89.26 monthly supports, but it's broken below this low here at 90.84. So let's go to the weekly chart, show you. That's the monthly low. This is a weekly. That's the weekly low from over here. So we've broken monthly support, weekly support, false breaking monthly support down here. Now that's in a downtrend, and can it continue? It's at low levels. And I'm not going to sell in. I'm not going to sell into monthly support. If I see that level once more tested, this is a day chart. If that was to come down to hit that level and hold, let's say you get a reversal candle on that level. So we've false broke, reversed. If it comes down to that level and holds on a candle rejection, then there's every chance then that would come back up to the levels it's broken up here. All right. So to the 4 hour. It's going sideways at the moment, sideways to slightly down. I would just be watching to see what price can do. If you can get down to 89.26, I would be watching that level to be support. You can see when it moved above on the 4 hour here, it became support on that candle. So does it once more come down to that level and do the same thing? Does it come down to that level and show you a 4 hour rejection candle like you got there? Because then your entry is just to trade the break of the candle. That's my 4 hour entry method. There was your rejection on support to trade up. Now couldn't get all the way back up to these areas of resistance, but can it come back down and do the same thing? If it can do the same thing again, the next move may well move up to the levels that we previously broke. And if it does that, we'll probably form a higher bottom on the day chart. So then we might get a much more considerable reversal. If this forms a higher bottom, we're probably going to form a lower top on the euro dollar day chart, a lower top on the pound dollar day chart as well. So, all right, dollar yen. Now, we've had that move up. We've been pulling back to that 79% level. We are at a critical level of resistance here at the moment. And if you've got your charts up to date, with the monthly chart, we've just come up fraction short of this monthly high here. 135.16. All right, there's your weekly chart look. Been discussing, is this the left shoulder inverted head, right shoulder? So it's putting in a high bottom here, but it will obviously need to move above that monthly top. And we've pretty much been there almost to the pip. 4 pips short. There's also a daily top there. So we actually moved back below that level. It became resistance just there. So there's a bit of a resistance top, double top maybe there. I mean, of course, all this price action up this way is in an uptrend. And it's going a little bit sideways at the moment. It's waiting for some news in all probability. It needs, a lot of these pairs at the moment. We've got some news coming out tomorrow from the US side, later tomorrow evening. This may just, it's waiting for, can we get some more positive US dollar news or some more negative US dollar news? It's not, if we're going to continue the uptrend, let's just forget that maybe this is a double top here. This is high tops and bottoms. This area here, daily support, weekly support from over here, 133.74 down to 133.66, sorry, 133.62 is a very good level of support if we pull back to it. I mean, just buying because you're seeing an uptrend here where it is not the best place because you're very close to monthly resistance there. So whilst the 4 hour trend here is sideways, if the uptrend is going to continue, this area here, if we can pull back to it, should hold as support. So I will just be watching for a pullback at the moment. Once you get it to critical levels of resistance, sellers are always potentially going to come in. So buying too close to the area is just suicidal. You could just simply wait for a break above, and then you're watching 135.16 to be support. All right, but we don't have that at the moment. So looking for that to move up, or I would be looking as well for price to get down to this area and then trade up. Now, maybe you think we've already topped out. Who was asking me? Azu, you're asking me about the dollar yen. And you're asking me, do we have any major news today? Not really, no. We've only got US unemployment claims at 10:30 p.m. So nothing major on the news front to drive things. That's why things are a little bit sideways at the moment. Slow saying Treasury Yellen's going to speak. Well, yeah, but I mean, what you talking about? Anything or nothing? I don't know. I'm going to be asleep by then anyway. So, but yeah, so I suppose you could say something that would maybe drive the market, but it's not like the head of the Federal Reserve talking, I don't think. All right, so let's just drop down the 50-minute chart here. What I can see on the 50-minute chart, if you want to trade this to the downside, I can clearly see that, the figure. Today we got a fraction short there. We obviously failed at the figure yesterday. Now up in that area, you could look for a short on a setup, trend line breaking this area to trade down. Clearly that area at the moment, 135 is high price for the dollar yen in its current overstretched move up on the day chart. So if you were looking for a short, then that would be an area to watch if price can get up there. May have already missed the boat early in Asia. All right, but that would be an area to watch for a short if we could get up there. If you're looking for an intraday play. And I'm just looking at the chat. So we're still talking about, as we're still talking about the dollar yen here. I mean, yeah, there would be a 79% level if you drew it in from there to there. But that's where we've already failed. Now, you could also say, I can see another 79% level. You could also say that there's one here. All right. But I would much prefer to be, I'd much prefer to be trading up here. But you could look at that as that's already put in the high for the day. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that level. I just prefer this level. So when I'm looking at a pair, I look at what's the best level, and then I look, to see whether I can trade at that level. Like today I put out on the euro dollar, the best level in the euro dollar today was up here. All right, so I wait for the best level. So if I was looking at the dollar yen, well, the best level at the moment would be up here. Now, whether or not we can get there is another matter. So yes, that level could well hold. That could be the final top for the day. That could hold there to trade down for the day. So you just have to make a decision. All right. All right, let's move on to have a look at gold. Day chart trend is changing here. We haven't broken below the low there. So, maybe from that monthly chart, we're putting in the next lower top up there. We are at high extreme prices up there. Are we topping out of there? So, all right, weekly trend though is still up quite clearly. But for this weekly trend to change to downtrend, if you're wanting a signal to trade down from up here because we're at high prices, this weekly chart's not going to tell you. It's going to be too slow to change trend. But the daily trend is turning to down. You could be monitoring. Of course, we moved to a lower bottom here. You could be monitoring now for a rally. So we could be looking for left shoulder, head, right shoulder. So you looking for price to come up to 79. So that's 2031. All right. So if we have topped out, we'll have a last rally to form, the head and shoulder pattern. If you want me to draw it in. All right, so you can monitor that. I mean, at the moment, we're trading right at 1998, which is weekly resistance. So, of course, price has to move back above resistance to put that pattern in. But you can monitor that if you like to trade gold. It's certainly changed the trend on the day chart to down. So will it have a rally now to put in the lower top, which would be this right shoulder area to move down? I mean, we could, from that monthly chart perspective, be putting in a major top up there for a major run down. All right, so if you want to trade gold, watch to see where that pattern can start to form. All right. Any more questions? So some of these pairs at the moment are not great. The likes of the Aussie dollar there, sitting right in the middle of the range, the euro pound right in the middle of the range. Some are right at the top of the markets, potentially, like the Aussie yen. While I've been doing the webinar, it's just coming back up to test. So let's just have a look at this. Because if you were game, you could look in this area. We're coming up to the top over here to the left. We may just hold at the top here once more. So you're at 79% level at 90.50. You've got your monthly resistance level at 90.51. So, I mean, that is a great end to the 1 hour chart. It's not the perfect looking head and shoulder pattern, but, you could call that maybe left shoulder, head. We're putting some kind of right shoulder in there, but it is a little bit of a stretch. But, there's an area of 15-minute resistance here that's been formed. Then we've formed another area here. There's another area there. All right, clearly at the moment, that's where the sellers are. So this run up at the moment, is it just getting driven up to the sellers to move back down? All right, you can work that out yourself, how and when you want to try and get in on that, if you like to look at that. All right. All right, any final questions? Let's just click through, see what's going on. Still range bound, really. That euro dollar is still range bound, but it is holding at 109.73. Pound might be holding it at central pivot point. And that New Zealand dollar is getting a little bit of support down there, so that could come up back up to the high levels. So leave you there with the Aussie yen. Now, webinars next week. If you want to join me next Tuesday, we'll have one for analysis. Next Wednesday, we will have, this can just come in. Here we go. Analysis on 25th. I'm going to go through part 3 of smart money concepts, price imbalances. Kind of touched a lot on that yesterday when we talked about order blocks, but that will just be covering that as a topic on Wednesday. More analysis next Thursday. So that's what's coming up from me next week. If you want to join me, just go to the webinar page and register your interest. I look forward to seeing you then. Other than that, if you've been at the webinars this week, thanks very much for your attendance. It's always appreciated. I can see some new faces on there. I can see some new names. I can't see the faces, but thanks very much for dropping in. Hopefully you're getting value from the webinars if you're new. And all the old names who keep cropping up, I'm just assuming you're getting value because you keep coming back for more. So thanks very much for your support. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, thanks everybody.